Hi, I'm Christina Gordon. I am the CEO of the Women's Foundation of Boston. And whether you are new to the Women's Foundation of Boston or you've been involved since our inception almost 5 years ago, we hope you learn today about our important work, about our mission and our vision for economically empowering Greater Boston women and girls. I'm thrilled to be joined today with the Women's Foundation of Boston team. Amy Danoff, our CFO, and Patty Satterthwaite, our COO. Annie Tallis, our grant manager. Nicole Booth, our volunteer manager and social media manager. Marta LePerriere. I know, I'm sorry, Marta, if I didn't say that right. Our digital media marketing manager. And Anita McKean, our office manager. And of course, we have a special guest, Bonnie Bertollet, who is the executive director of Science Club for Girls, one of our awesome grantee partners. So welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to walk you through our presentation for about 15-20 minutes, which will be followed by Q&A. We will keep it as quick and comprehensive as possible. And please type any questions you have into the Q&A box, and we will touch upon those at the end. The outline of the presentation begins with how and why we created the Women's Foundation of Boston almost 5 years ago. In 2017, the co-founders and I shared an interest and belief in the economic empowerment of women and girls, and we began researching what was going on in that space, both nationally and locally. And we found some very shocking statistics. From Indiana University Lilly School of Philanthropy's comprehensive research, we learned that only 1.9%, which was updated recently from 1.6 in prior years, 1.9% of all charitable giving in our country is directed towards women and girls serving nonprofits. And 40% of that is sent overseas, which is twice the rate of all other giving. So that 1.9% of the time that people are compelled to write a check to women and girls serving nonprofits, they are twice as likely to send it overseas. We wanted to find out more, so we dug deeper. This is the chart of all US giving. As you can see, women and girls serving nonprofits are getting the least of any group. It's important to note that anything within the two largest groups, religion, education, or any of them, that is specific to women and girls, like health, is actually in the 1.9% box. So women's health is in that tiny 1% box, not in the health section. So that small 1.9% minus the 40% that goes overseas includes organizations like Susan G. Komen, Planned Parenthood, all the women's colleges, and every YWCA in our country. We could not believe these numbers, so we actually dug deeper. We looked at the top 10 gifts within that tiny red women and girls box. The number one gift was a health organization in India. And the number 3 gift was actually a co-ed organization in Africa, which was founded by an American woman. So it was mistakenly put in that group. So we looked closer to home at Boston statistics, and we found more unsettling numbers. Boston's figures suggest that a mere 0.3% of all giving is directed towards women and girls serving organizations, a fraction of the national statistics. So our stats backed up the need for economic empowerment among women and girls in our city. Clearly, there is a massive underinvestment in women and girls nonprofits in the US and in Boston in particular. We could not find a large, vibrant women's foundation here working exclusively on economic empowerment, like there are in 44 other states in our country. Essentially, all American cities have a women's foundation funding and creating programs and projects for women and girls. So we created the Women's Foundation of Boston in January of 2017, and we have been growing exponentially ever since. Our success and growth really highlights the fact that there was a gap that needed to be filled. Our exclusive focus on economic empowerment is very, very intentional. This is because by raising a woman's economic status, all of her life variables improve, as well as for her children. Women also reinvest 90% of their incomes back into their families and communities. And this compares roughly to 35 to 40% for men. So investing in women is like investing in our city. I'm now going to touch upon our mission. Our mission is razor sharp focused on economically empowering Greater Boston women and girls by supporting and funding women and girls serving nonprofits with high impact programs. I'd now like to talk about how we implement this mission. So we create and fund high impact projects in 3 specific areas. First, we focus on career and financial empowerment. This includes job training, financial literacy, and like salary negotiation workshops. Second, we invest in leadership programs. This includes the really important mentoring networks. Third, we fund educational programs with a very much a strong focus on high return fields like STEM and finance. And now I'd like to turn it over to Amy Danoff to talk more about our unique team and business model. Amy?
Great, thank you, Christina. The Women's Foundation of Boston team is unique because we're all business women with extensive ties in Boston. We bring our expertise in financial analysis, investing, marketing, technology, and consulting to our projects and partnerships. Coupled with our extensive experience and relationships in our community, this makes for significant impact in what we do. Finally, we are almost all volunteers. Next slide, please. We have a stellar board, which has guided us wisely through our first 3 years of steep growth. Our board members have expertise in a diversity of fields, including healthcare, media, sports, nonprofits, foundations, technology, consulting, finance, and marketing. We are honored and very fortunate to have these powerhouses supporting our organization. We've also added an advisory council to enhance our organization. These folks provide informal support to us on the volunteer and financial fronts. They also bring a wide range of expertise and community engagement. Now I would like to highlight the advantages to our business model. We are tightly focused on the return on our and our donors' investment in our community. We evaluate impact constantly to improve outcomes, and along with our fabulous board and advisory council, advise our nonprofit partners, which are typically small and medium in size. We act as an important strategic connector for Boston nonprofits, and we tap into our business, community, and philanthropic networks to build partnerships and create opportunities for our grantees. As you can see, we do much more than just write checks. Because we only have 2 paid part-time employees that are funded by a foundation, we have almost no expenses, so that almost every dollar from our donors goes directly to women and girls. Finally, we create important leverage through our collective giving. By combining gifts, we increase the impact and allow our nonprofit partners to plan better for the future. Our large gifts also often spur foundations and corporations to give more generously. We increase the visibility and credibility of our nonprofit partners with our grants and partnerships. And now I'll turn it over to Annie Tallis, who will talk about our progress in granting funds.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, I'm Annie Tallis, Grant Manager. Our growth in committed grants has been dramatic, and the increase has continued and even accelerated in the pandemic. We launched a COVID response fund that raised and awarded $500,000 in 2020. We created a structured grant process, which Patty will describe more in depth in a few moments, and awarded over $1.7 million to 14 organizations in 2 cycles during the last 12 months. We have committed $2.8 million to 22 organizations with diversity of programmatic focus and age profile, but all with amazing impact, which we will discuss later. The common thread in all our granting decisions is the emphasis on economic empowerment. I'm truly inspired by the amazing work that our grantee partners do. Our grants have a wide range of programming, from finance and career programs for single mothers to after-school STEM classes for girls in underserved communities to financial literacy for high school girls. Now I will turn it over to Patty to discuss our grant cycle process.
Thanks, Annie. We drew from our investing in technology careers to build an innovative grant-making process, which we launched in June of 2020. We exhaustively research and evaluate nonprofits and their funding requests through our proprietary scorecards using technology-driven custom grant-making software. Our expert committee uses this systematic approach to analyze and vet our invited nonprofit applicants. Our typical grants are for 3 years, ranging from $10,000 to $50,000 annually. Multi-year grants allow our grantees to focus on the programming and the impact. We collaborate with our nonprofit grantees to maximize their success. We closely monitor this impact by requiring detailed impact and financial data from these partners twice a year. So as a result of our inaugural grant process, we granted $750,000 in December of 2020, and then we immediately turned around and launched our 2021 grant cycle and announced 7 awards amounting to $1.1 million in June of 2021. And we are gearing up to send invitations in 2 weeks to our 2022 grant cycle, where we hope to award $1.5 million during the next cycle. I now want to introduce Bonnie Bertollet, the Executive Director of Science Club for Girls, one of our fantastic grantee partners.
Thanks, Patty. Hi, I'm Bonnie Bertollet, and I'm very happy to be here today. At Science Club for Girls, our mission is to foster excitement, confidence, and literacy in STEM for girls, particularly girls from underrepresented communities, by providing free experiential programs and by maximizing meaningful interactions with women STEM mentors. Science Club for Girls has been addressing systemic inequities around gender, race, and socioeconomic factors in STEM for over 27 years. And we do this with our continuum of mentor-led programming for grades K through 12. In so doing, we combat the many off-ramps in girls' trajectories to higher education and careers in STEM. At Science Club for Girls, we bring together 3 critical issues: the drastic shortage of STEM workers, the dramatic underrepresentation of our prioritized communities in STEM, and the widening achievement and opportunity gaps in STEM for girls and women of color, which has been really exacerbated by the pandemic. Science Club for Girls first started working with the Women's Foundation of Boston in 2018, when our organization was restructuring after a period of rapid expansion. We were implementing a new strategic plan that focused on regenerating leadership on both the board and staff sides, strengthening and augmenting development and financial infrastructure, and sharpening our programmatic focus. With Women's Foundation of Boston, we've been able to hire an executive director and build out a fantastic team of programming and development staff, regenerate the board of directors and board-led committees, increase our budget to 4 times what it was after restructuring, put in place best practices with regard to development and financial infrastructure, increase our enrollment by over 130%, expand from Cambridge to Boston and Somerville and neighboring communities, pivot to virtual programming swiftly and successfully in response to the pandemic. And because of our restructuring and the support of Women's Foundation of Boston, we were able to innovate during this time. And so in the spring of 2020, we ran a coding club for middle school girls, which we also did in 2021. And we created a live science show for elementary school age girls called SCFG Live, which we broadcast and record each week, both funded in particular by Women's Foundation of Boston COVID response funding. We then went on to run a very successful virtual summer rocketry program for middle school girls for the past 2 summers, with funding that the Women's Foundation of Boston helped us secure. And while other programs and organizations are seeing dips in enrollment, especially with underrepresented communities, we have been exceeding the levels of both participants and mentors with our fall 2020 and 2021 programming compared with pre-pandemic levels. In October of 2020, we celebrated our 25th anniversary with our Catalyst Awards event, during which we honor individuals and institutions that further the cause of girls and women in STEM. And we were thrilled to honor the Women's Foundation of Boston, who understand the importance of girls and women having access to STEM learning and opportunities so that they can fully participate at all levels of the economy. And in December 2020, we were awarded a grant from Women's Foundation of Boston to fund 2 paid internships to provide 2 young women from underrepresented communities skills and work experience in communications and program management to enhance their career trajectories while simultaneously expanding our organization's capacity to serve more girls. Finally, this past summer, we were thrilled to be awarded a grant from Women's Foundation of Boston of $100,000 per year for 3 years to expand our programming in both virtual and in-person formats, and more than double our enrollment by 2024 to increase accessibility of STEM programming and mentoring on a whole new scale to even more girls and women from underrepresented communities. And now I'll turn it back to Christina.
Wow, thanks, Bonnie. It's always good to hear from you and to hear about how well Science Club for Girls is doing. It's really awesome. Thank you. So not only do we fund nonprofits at Women's Foundation Boston, we are also constantly identifying gaps and creating solutions for women and girls empowerment. The list on this slide gives you an idea of our special projects, our proprietary projects that we have created. And now Patty will discuss our most successful project to date, which is the Women in Nonprofit Network. Patty?
Thanks, Christina. Almost 3 years ago, we identified that there are few, if any, opportunities for women CEOs of nonprofits to network, connect, collaborate, and share best practices. And there were almost no professional development opportunities for these women leaders given their tight nonprofit budgets. So we decided to change that. In conjunction with our partner, the Red Sox Foundation, we created WIN, a dynamic and growing network of women nonprofit leaders in Greater Boston. We don't charge membership fees or initiation fees, and there's no lengthy application process, and all women nonprofit executive directors are welcome to join. We've had 7 amazing events, all of which have been well attended and got rave reviews. We had to pivot to gathering online via Zoom due to the pandemic, but this actually increased our ability to reach nonprofit leader audiences. Last month, we hosted an event entitled Measuring That Matters, Yardsticks to Success, in response to the member preference in our surveys regarding program evaluation and measurement. Post-event feedback was extremely positive, and we look forward to hosting another event in February. We are very proud of this early success of this network and look forward to continuing to build it out. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Christina to discuss impact.
Thanks, Patty. So we measure impact very, very frequently and seriously. As part of the recent Grantee Partner Impact Update, we received these statistics from Budget Buddies. We are thrilled with the results of this grant, and you can see why. We are proud of these outcomes and the impact that it's truly having on teen girls and women living in low-income situations. The fact that 93% of Budget Buddies teen girls make a budget and 92% of the women pay their bills on time after this program is exactly why we created the Women's Foundation of Boston. We have impacted over 9,000 women and girls in Greater Boston in less than 3 years of granting funds. Our impact is broad and diverse, but all of it empowers women and girls to become financially independent members of their communities. Our COVID response fund had a huge impact on the nonprofits we funded and their constituents. Over a third of the impact described on this page came from our timely and technology-focused grants during COVID. I'd like to drill down a bit on our COVID response fund and its enormous impact. We created the first and only response fund specifically for women and girls. In Greater Boston, through a generous match, we raised close to over $500,000 very quickly. Demand for help from these nonprofits that are serving women and girls skyrocketed during that time, while their fundraising sources had evaporated. Equipment and software allowed these grantee partners to swiftly pivot to online programming so that women and girls could stay connected during isolation, which proved to be critical. Here you can see the large number of women and girls that were impacted from our response fund, specifically with respect to the virtual pivot. We're extremely proud of this, and it has highlighted to us how important our work is today more than ever. Boston really needs and deserves an organization advocating and funding women and girls, and without us, we really don't think there would be one. This is our latest addition to our impact tracking. We had expected that the racial data would look pretty diverse, and we weren't surprised to find that over 3/4 of the women and girls that benefit from our grants are BIPOC. In fact, the full year 2020 statistics suggested the number is more like 85%. The majority of our grants are for women and girls who live beneath the poverty line. And and a large portion of women and girls living beneath the poverty line are BIPOC. So again, it's not surprising to us, but we're really proud to be empowering women and girls from a variety of different locations and different ethnicities and areas. So we're very proud of this. And now I'd like to turn it over to Marta to talk about the near future. Marta?
Thank you, Christina. The current environment for women is difficult and it's deteriorating almost every day. Who knows how long it's going to take women to regain the lost years of progress in terms of workforce representation and pay. We see ourselves here at WF Boston as a vital resource for women when it comes to recovery in employment and economic empowerment in the years to come. And we stand ready to help organizations drive growth for women. We are doubling down on our efforts and focusing on fundraising. After raising almost 1.9 million in 2020, we are continuing to project growth in fundraising in 2021 and beyond. Our vision and mission is resonating with many in our community, including men. About 25% of our individual donors are men, and we are very proud of this. We strongly believe that men must also be part of the solution. And now I'd like to turn it over to Nicole to talk about how you can get involved and make an impact.
Great. Thank you, Marta. So, hi, everyone. Nicole, I'm the volunteer manager here at WF Boston. And I'm excited to share a number of ways that you can get involved to drive our mission forward. First, you can volunteer. We always need help, whether it be in a number of areas from IT to social media, as well as event planning and special projects. We have both individual and group opportunities that are all posted on our website, and I can share the link in the chat. So this is a great way to get directly involved in our mission. Another way to get involved is, of course, to donate. This is always a great way to help. You can go to our website and donate online. However, we also take securities, wire transfers, and checks. In addition to donating, fundraising is an area where we also always need growth. We greatly appreciate you connecting us with potential donors, either they be individual or corporate. And we're also open to helping you host a fundraiser, either virtually or at your home. In addition, serving on a board is also a great way to get involved. If you're committed and interested in serving on a board of a women and girls serving nonprofit, we can connect you with the nonprofits in need of board members, really with a diverse set of skills. Another simple way to help is by spreading the word. So I also help with the social media here at WF Boston, and I can say that sharing and liking our posts on our platforms is huge to get our message out there. So definitely give us a follow. Our handle is at WF Boston across Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And simply by just liking and sharing our posts with friends and colleagues really goes a long way. And lastly, we'd love to be connected with your friends and other businesses. We're happy to set up a webinar similar to this one or an information session and just continue to get the word out there. So thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it back over to Christina. I believe we're ready for the Q&A.
Thanks, Nicole. So that concludes our formal presentation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have typed into the Q&A box. We appreciate any feedback on our work as well as our presentation, and just thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to connect with you soon. And now I'm gonna answer a few questions, or I'm gonna throw out a few questions to our group. We have gotten the question before what our long-term growth plan is. In 2020, we finished our 3 to 5 year strategic plan. And our plan is for solid, sustainable growth through 2025 with a structured grant cycle process and committee and a solid strategic growth with continued focus on funding and promoting women and girls serving organizations. So we have a very concrete roadmap that we are following and will continue through 2025 so that the Women's Foundation of Boston will be a long-term sustainable organization well into the future, 10, 20, 30 years from now. Let's see, there's something in the chat. Let me check. Which political candidate do you support or endorse? Amy, do you want to touch upon that?
Sure. We are an apolitical organization. We believe that all girls and women, regardless of their political affiliation, deserve to be economically independent and self-sufficient. And as such, we do not support or endorse political candidates and movements. Everyone is welcome.
Excellent. How many volunteers do you currently have on your team and what type of jobs do they have? I don't know, does anybody want to take that? Or I can. Nicole, you want to? Go for it.
Sure, I can take this. So we currently have over 100 volunteers in a number of positions. So like I mentioned, we have anywhere from small jobs, completing, owning our newsletters or our MailChimps for our emails, to more of those quote unquote manager roles. So, volunteer manager or social media manager. So with our newest list of volunteer opportunities, if you take a look at the link that I did drop in there, you'll see that there's anything from a small short-term project to something that you can really take and grow with us. And if you are an expert in a specific area, there's always help that we're looking for, and we can totally find a spot for you based on your skills. So huge network that we have and lots of opportunities.
Thanks, Nicole. There was something about STEM, but I think Bonnie definitely answered that. What is your typical donation and what is the donation range? Our average donation, I think, is maybe $7,000 or $8,000, but that's skewed. That's average. Our median, I think, is more around $500, and our donations range from $10 or $15 to several $100,000. So it's a very, I think this really speaks to the depth and health of our diverse donor base. And every donation, no matter what amount, helps drive our mission forward. And as Amy or somebody pointed out, we are essentially an all volunteer organization, and our small expenses are covered by foundation specific grants from foundations. So every dollar that is donated to the Women's Foundation of Boston goes directly to women and girls programming, 100%, which is very unusual, and we're very proud of that fact. I don't know if there's any other questions. I don't see any others. Has anybody? I think that's it. So this is great. We got a lot of information to you all. We appreciate you joining us, and please connect with us online or reach out to our emails. Thank you so much.